Today we'll be comparing the latest and greatest from the Apple itself. So on the right we have the flagship iPhone 16 Pro, and on the left we have the least that you can get from the Apple, that is the iPhone 16e. Though the pricing on the iPhone 16e is a little bit off, I would just say it doesn't match what the Microdynamics has to offer. But nevertheless, we'll just compare these to both phones in different aspects. So first, let's go ahead and just talk about the specs of these both phones. So the iPhone 16 Pro was launched in September 2024. The February 19, 2025 iPhone 16e was being announced. And obviously the iPhone 16e was announced later than the iPhone 16 Pro. And being a budget iPhone, or you can say the least or cheapest iPhone that you can buy today is the iPhone 16e. So if you talk about the dimension wise, so iPhone 16e is like a 146.7 by 71.5 by 7.8 millimeter in thickness. iPhone 16 Pro is around 149.6 by 71.5 by 8.3 millimeter in thickness. So weight wise, the iPhone 16e is obviously less heavy with 167 grams. The iPhone 16e just to get to see a regular aluminum frame. Both are equipped with the front glass and the back glass, with iPhone 16e with being a aluminum frame and the iPhone 16 Pro being with the titanium frame. Now if you talk about the dust and water resistance, iPhone 16e has the IP68 dust and tide and water resistance, immersible up to 6 meters for 30 minutes. And iPhone 16 Pro is also IP68 dust, tide and water resistance, immersible up to 6 meters for 30 minutes. So both have like the same rating for the dust and water resistance. Once we come to the display of these both phones, so the iPhone 16e has a Super Retina HDR OLED HDR10 with 800 nits of brightness and 200 nits of peak brightness. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you get to see the LTPO Super Retina HDR OLED display with 120 Hz of refresh rate, HDR10, Dolby Vision, and 1000 nits and 2000 nits of peak brightness. Now, if you talk about the screen sizes on these both phones, so they are slightly similar. Like I would just say on the iPhone 16e, you're just getting a 6.1 inches of a screen size, which is like 87.1% screen to body ratio. While the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting 6.3 inches with 90.1% screen to body ratio. So you're just getting a better screen to body ratio on the iPhone 16 Pro. And obviously the iPhone 16 has the 60 Hz display, so that would just make a massive difference once you're just interacting with the device itself via screen. Now resolution wise, they have a pretty much similar, not so much difference in terms of the sharpness or color reproduction. Very hard to find a notice in these both phones regarding that one. The iPhone 16e has the 1170 by 2532 pixels, 19.5:9 aspect ratio with 457 ppi density. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting a slightly better ppi with 460 ppi density. It has a resolution of 1206 by 2622 pixels, same aspect ratio as the iPhone 16e, 19.5:9 ratio. Now, once we talk about the front glass protection, now most of the people are using what you call the screen protectors with their phones, like I always do. And like if you're the person who doesn't use the screen protectors, so that might help. Like the iPhone 16 has the ceramic shield glass, which is a Gen 1st ceramic shield glass. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting a ceramic shield glass, which is like a newer version, 2024 Gen. On the iPhone 16, you doesn't get to see the always on display, while on the iPhone 16 Pro, you get to see the always on display. Now, I'm not sure why the always on display is not enabled on the iPhone 16e. Why Apple is holding on the price point on this device is so much. Like even the Samsung's mid-range phone have the always on display, and iPhone is just lying in between the mid-range phone and the flagship phone pricing. And it's still like iPhone 16e doesn't have the always on display, which is quite irony, I would just say. So regarding the iOS, you can say you can just upgrade both phones to 18.4. On the iPhone 16e, you get to see the Apple A18 chip. It is a very very great chip, I would just say. Regarding the gaming, I've just done the gaming on this one, and it's pretty decent. Like it can just compete with any of the flagship phones right now in terms of the chipset. It's like even with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, I would just say it's a pretty great chip, I would just say. it's a 3 nanometer architecture. And on the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting a higher end, which is the Apple 18 Pro, which is a 3 nanometer chipset. Now, once we talk about the cores on these both phones regarding the chipset, so both have the hexa-core, but on the iPhone 16e, you're just getting 2 into 4.04 gigahertz of performance cores, while on the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting 2 into 4.05 of performance cores. Now, very slight difference in terms of the performance cores is the reason that the iPhone 16e has a pretty great performance with regard to the chipset itself. Once we talk about the efficiency cores, so you're just getting 4 into 2.2 gigahertz on the iPhone 16e, and on the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting 4 into 2.42 gigahertz of efficiency core. So efficiency cores difference is much more on the iPhone 16 Pro, that you're getting the higher efficiency cores on the iPhone 16 Pro, but nevertheless, once you just compare these on side by side, very hard to just notice the difference in between. Is the reason I always say like the chips are getting advanced, these are getting faster, and I'm not sure like whether we're just able to make most use out of those chips itself. Now, once we talk about the GPU itself, so the iPhone 16e, you're just getting a 4-core graphics, and on the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting 6-core graphics. So you're just getting slightly better cores on the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, how the Apple has differentiated is 3 devices: iPhone 16 Pro, regular iPhone 16, and regular, and then there's budget iPhone 16e. So the iPhone 16 Pro had the 6 cores, then you get to see the 5 cores on the regular 16s, and then you get to 4 cores on the iPhone 16e. So like a 1 core less once you move down the hierarchy. Now, once we talk about the internal memory options on the iPhone 16e, you're just getting 128 gigs, 256 gigs, and 512 gigs with bundle up with the 8 gigs of RAM. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting 128 gigs, 256 gigs, 512 gigs, and 1 TB options bundled up with the 8 gigs of RAM. Now, the camera modules obviously use the thing that you guys will notice most difference, like on the back, if you guys will see. So, you just notice like so iPhone 16e has just a 1 camera lens, and the iPhone 16 Pro has like a 3 best camera lenses. I would just say on the iPhone 16e is just a single 48 megapixel wide lens. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you will be just seeing around 48 megapixel of wide, and then there's 12 megapixel of periscope telephoto, and then 48 megapixel of ultra wide lens. So obviously you get to see the video quality differences in these both phones. They're pretty much different once we compare towards the camera side. I've used the iPhone 16e camera. Obviously it doesn't aligns with the iPhone 16 Pro, and even the devices in its category, I would just say maybe you can just say the A56 Samsung. So I find the cameras, you get more versatility with 3 cameras over there, and those are like a nicer cameras, and you will just see this thing like missing in the iPhone 16e. That is so much overpriced with regards to the options that is just there in this phone itself. Now obviously the iPhone 16e has the dual LED tone flash with HDR panorama 3D spatial audio still being supported in the audio terms, and it can shoot up to 4K up to 60 FPS. Now once we talk about the iPhone 16 Pro, so you're just getting over here slightly better camera setup. So also you're just getting over here dual LED tone flash, you get the SD photo panorama, and it has the LiDAR scanner, which is like a depth sensor, so you get a more better portraits from this phone. It can shoot up to 4K up to 120 FPS. And if you talk about the iPhone 16e, so that can shoot in Dolby Vision HDR. OIS is there, and there's a stereo sound recording on that one. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you're just getting better with the that it can shoot 10-bit HDR. Then you get the Dolby Vision HDR up to 60 FPS. Then there's a Apple proprietary ProRes that you can shoot on this. You can record on a 3D spatial video audio, and obviously there are just stereo mics in this one, which just enhanced to capture the voice better than the other phones. So yeah, that will just give the iPhone 16 Pro much more advantage. The front camera on these both phones are the 12 megapixel. So I'm not sure like whether these are like different cameras. I find like with the spec that I see, iPhone 16e doesn't have the OIS, but the iPhone 16 Pro has that one. So both are using the Face ID sensors on the front, which are like great. I find the island to be a little bit more pleasing to the eyes than this old notch. It feels like you're just using an old phone, like maybe iPhone 12 or something like which is very much older, and the phone like a very thick borders. Like at this price point, like the bezels feels pretty much thick on this phone. So the front camera, obviously you can shoot HDR, Dolby Vision, HDR, and then there's 3D spatial audio and stereo sound recording on the iPhone 16e. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you get the same as well. The front cameras of these both can shoot 4K up to 60 FPS. Obviously, the iPhone 16 Pro has the Gyro EIS, and that just makes a little bit of difference in the picture taking. Both are the stereo speakers. Obviously, the speakers on the iPhone 16 Pro are slightly better. The iPhone 16e has also like a really great speaker, but I'll incline towards a little bit towards the iPhone 16 Pro. Like it has a more depth, like it feels like a speaker, actual speaker, I would just say. Now if we talk about the battery itself, so the iPhone 16 Pro has 3582 mAh of battery, which is quite lesser than the iPhone 16e, which has like a 4005 mAh battery. But still I feel like the batteries are just fine on these both phones. These are not the greatest batteries that you can get right on the market, and battery wouldn't be in a factor on this phone like while buying these phones. Like these both have like a not that great battery. These are just okay kind of battery. Now if we talk about the charging speed, so both can charge with a wired charging 50% in 30 minutes. Obviously you just get the MagSafe on the iPhone 16 Pro. There's no option on the iPhone 16e, which is quite strange. I'm not sure why Apple didn't give. Regarding the color options, if we talk about, so on the iPhone 16e you just get the white and black. On the iPhone 16 Pro you're just getting the black titanium, white titanium, natural titanium, and desert titanium over here. So yeah, so you get more options there, very basic options. Now if we talk about the designs of these phones, like while you're just holding these, so obviously once you hold the phone itself, so iPhone 16 Pro feels so much premium than the iPhone 16e. Obviously it's slightly heavier. It feels that you're holding something very much premium. It feels really great. Nevertheless, I wouldn't mean like the iPhone 16e feels cheap at all. It's just an aluminum frame, very lightweight than the iPhone 16e, that you can just right away tell once you're just holding these both phones side by side. Now the difference is because like iPhone 16 Pro has a much more better equipment here with better cameras, better frame, and obviously like if I would just want to choose, I would just spend almost double of what the iPhone 16e, and we'll get the iPhone 16 Pro would be the much better choice, and the device will be much more future proof because the cameras are so much not worthy on the iPhone 16e at this price point. I would just say like Apple should improve this thing. So it's basically a differentiation factor. I would just say that the Apple has done in its lineup. Like the iPhone 16 Pro has 3 cameras and iPhone 16 has 2, and then iPhone 16e has like a 1 camera, which is quite annoying. Obviously one thing I just noticed, like obviously this 1 camera setup looks pretty much sleek, very nice, clean and elegant, I would just say, in that aspect. But obviously when we talk about the utility of this phone, so it's not that great at this price point. It has to be much more cheaper than this price range over here. So if we talk about the back, so back feels pretty much similar. I would just say I couldn't find a difference. The white on the iPhone 16e looks very nice, and the titanium, natural titanium, has always been my favorite color on this one. Like it's really sleek on the iPhone 16 Pro. The white color also is really nice on the iPhone 16 Pros, but nevertheless, like I incline towards this one to get the iPhone 16 Pro in that natural titanium. Now if we talk about the size of these phones, so obviously I just incline towards the iPhone 16 Pro. It feels much more nicer in the looks, I would just say. Feels much more smoother. iPhone 16e frame obviously is nice, it's aluminium, but obviously the titanium has a different color tone to it. It looks very elegant, I would just say, the iPhone 16 Pro with regards to the touch and everything. Now obviously there's a difference over here once we talk about over here. So you get the power on and off button over here. There's nothing on the iPhone 16e. You get over here the camera, newer camera button, which is quite nice. I would say very very helpful in terms of like launching the camera. Like I always use this one to launch the camera on the iPhone 16 Pro. Before, like people were skeptical, like this camera button is quite useless, but once you're just shooting so much and taking a lot of pictures, so launching the camera from this one, like it is like a great option. It's like a physical, always promote the physical buttons than the touch. Obviously you can just launch the camera from over here as well from the screen, but the convenience of like launching the camera from the button itself is like another thing, I would just say. So yeah, it has the advantage, like if you want to make use out of it. So once you get to see, like over here you get like two antenna bands on the top and the bottom. Once you come onto the top, you have very similar layout, just one antenna band. And if you come towards the other sides, over here you get to see the same exactly layout. So we get the two antenna bands, we get one action button, volume up and down, and then we have the same card tray. Now if you talk about the bottom of these both phones, obviously it has the same layout. We get the speaker, we get the type C charging port, and we get the mic over here and one antenna band. Now the mics on the iPhone 16 Pro are pretty great, I would just say. So obviously once we talk about the screen itself, so screen feels pretty much same on these both phones. Obviously the iPhone 16 Pro looks much more elegant. It looks like almost like there are no borders on the phone itself. Looks very much sleeker on the iPhone 16 Pro. The thicker borders on the iPhone 16, obviously it doesn't pleases to the eye itself. And that old notch, I'm not sure why Apple went with it. Like it's really looking bad on this phone. Like it looks like it is being old from like it is kind of an iPhone 14 or maybe 12. Like it looks pretty much old. Like not sure. Like I didn't like this stuff on the iPhone 16e. At least should be with the dynamic island. And the screen itself, once you talk about, so obviously the smoothness on this phone is very much different than what you get to see on the iPhone 16 Pro. The iPhone 16 Pro feels very much premium in the touch itself. The smoothness that you get from the 120 Hz display is very much nicer than the iPhone 16e. Obviously you get both have the artificial intelligence on these both phones, so you wouldn't be wrong with either of the phone. Obviously I don't like the Apple Intelligence on the iPhone itself. Like to be honest, it needs a lot of work. Like now, the way that Samsung has implemented the artificial intelligence is like way beyond that the Apple has to offer. Apple promised the iPhone 16 Pro on the launch that it is being launched on the basis of the AI integration, but people have to just wait a couple of months. But nevertheless, if you're the iPhone person, so these are the best phones that you can get right now in the market itself. There's no capability of doing like a multitasking on these ones, which I always miss. My primary phone is like the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and I find like I miss the multitasking on these phones itself. Like those are like really helpful. If you're just obviously logged into the Apple system, so you might be used to of like not having multitasking capability, but that additional features like that is always been welcome, like, and those are like kind of a very useful thing. I'm not sure why Apple is not integrating those into the software. That's kind of a software thing that Apple can do, and can increase the software compatibility with more options. But nevertheless it's not there, so we cannot compare those things. Cameras on these both phones, obviously the iPhone 16 Pro is the better one. So let's talk about the speakers on these both phones. So I'll be just playing some music over here and we will just know like which one is better. The volume is up to the top on these both phones, and let's see which one performs better. So I would just say like both speakers are pretty much nice. There's nothing to complain. You get slightly better on the iPhone 16 Pro. I would just say like slightly louder and slightly more in depth. But it's very hard to notice one, and only you will know like once you just compare side by side. iPhone 16e has a really great speaker. I would just say it is at par with the iPhone 16 Pro. I would just say But obviously the iPhone 6 Pro, it has a better speaker, and you'll notice like it's slightly louder. You get more depth over here. So that what would just make the obviously the iPhone 16 Pro to be a pro. So yeah, this is all about the speakers itself. And if we talk about the software itself, so that's like a pretty much similar experience you'll just get. The scrolling and the animations feels much more nicer on the iPhone 16 Pro, and I'm not sure if you guys can notice on camera, but the iPhone 16e animations looks kind of stuttering, like a mild stuttering you just get once you just go out of the app. The iPhone 16 Pro feels much more smoother once you just talk about that. Battery life on these both phones, obviously these are just okay. These are not the greatest that you can expect from the market. These are like a smaller phones and a compact phones, but you might able to just get slightly better battery life on the iPhone 16e, being a bigger battery and a 60 hertz display than the iPhone 16 Pro. But nevertheless, both are just okay in terms of their performance. If you just stretch it out, so you might get one day. So now let's talk about like which device I would just prefer. Now obviously these devices are both are in a different price point. Now it depends upon the user what they want from the device itself. Like if you're the person who's just looking for the best of the best, so you might want to just get the iPhone 16 Pro. If you're just looking, or a person who's just considering a budget iPhone, so or you can say like a, I wouldn't say like it's a budget iPhone, but the cheapest iPhone to date, so that's the iPhone 16e is the option. Now the other option that you might want to consider could be the iPhone 15 Pro, if you're just going towards the iPhone 16 or maybe 16e, so you can just get a flagship phone. And the iPhone 15 Pro will be like a much more future proof, like you can get all the updates and everything. AI, I'm not sure like if that's would be your choice, but if you're just considering to, you might want to just get the newer iPhones. But yeah, either way I don't like the AI, how the Apple has integrated to its software. But yeah, if you want like a budget iPhone and you want a new phone, so iPhone 16e is an option. And if you're the person who can live with slightly used phones or older phones, so you might want to just save some bucks and get the iPhone 15 Pro and get a much more better experience. While if we talk about other options in the market itself for the iPhone 16e, I don't find this one to be priced like, I don't find this one has a right pricing. Like it is quite expensive with regards to like around nearly $900 in Canadian. You're just getting over here just a 60 hertz display and just a one camera. You have so much better options over here. Like I don't find these phones to be right to buy. Like it doesn't justify the price point on this device. But yeah, you're getting like a better chip over here, which is like a A18 and like a 8 gigs of RAM, which is like kind of a great deal with regard to the chip. So chips is pretty much great, as I already mentioned. Like you can compete with any of the other flagship phones in the market regarding the performance. But obviously the screen is the, like screen, if you see, so like it's the primary interaction that a consumer have with the device itself. And once you notice like a 60 hertz display, it looks pretty much bad, I would just say. Like once you compare with the 120 hertz display, or if you're just coming from 120 hertz display to 60 hertz display at this price point, like even if we compare the A36 from the Samsung itself, so that's around like a 120 hertz display, which is a much more cheaper device than the iPhone 16e. So yeah, if you're just an Android person, so you might want to just consider those devices. But yeah, if you're just logged into the Apple ecosystem, so these are like the two greatest devices that you might choose, or you can say the newer devices that you have in option. So yeah, that's all for today. Just let me know like which phone would you just prefer, and if you have any questions, you can just let me know down in the comments. And please like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching again. Have a good day. Bye.